Hello and welcome to Onesies, a podcast of onesies and wonders and blunders. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Emily.
And this week or no, not this week, this season, we are talking about Dracula the series, the 1990 syndicated masterpiece of syndicated Canadian television.
Yeah, let's go with masterpiece.
On location in Luxembourg. Yeah. If we caveat it enough, there won't be anything else in the genre.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is I think you can just blanket say it's a masterpiece and that would be fine.
It's certainly a piece of something. It's a masterful piece of something. We are on episode 6. Entitled Black Sheep. We can't tell you why yet. We'll tell you later, but it's a spoiler.
We already kind of gave it away earlier in the season.
We did, but we didn't know enough.
Yeah, we didn't.
Now we know more.
Yeah. So
what have you
got? 2 things in one: acting and drama, which is pretty quick in this the first part of this show. Then hangout, fang out, and let's talk about. Actually, I didn't write this down, but I am now. Let's talk about the general.
Oh, I wanted to look the general up. Okay, so mine will be Bram Stoker's Dracula continuity, playing tennis, which you'll have to remind me of because I didn't triple star it, and that's a spoiler too. This is a hard one because you just want to talk about spoilers. We can also just go to the regular old continuity, series continuity.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Cool beans. So we start with a man whose name I don't even care about. He shows up a lot in this episode. I don't even fucking care. At his wife, Amelia, I caught that. Amelia's grave. Lamenting her death. Fresh grave, too. Fresh. Lamenting her death. Piling flowers seemingly on top of her grave. Out loud, giving us some exposition. Like you do. You speak out loud to your loved ones at their grave. And it's all about Klaus. You know, Klaus is coming for you, and I'm not going to let him get you, and blah, blah. We have seen Klaus before. Vampire friend of Dracula. Looks like Mr. Perfect, but less big. And
Mr. Perfect, the wrestler, not the perfection of the male ideal. Geraint Wyn Davies. It's not like.
I think if you have to explain it,
it's not like he's Henry Cavill. Okay, we'll just say.
If you have to explain who Mr. Perfect is, whatever. Anyway, then enter Klaus, laughing maniacally and bringing capital A acting and capital D drama. He goes from speaking normally but laughing maniacally to shouting everything he says. And it is so beautiful. It gave me chills. I got chills from watching him perform this hacky scene.
In a full classic Dracula outfit.
Tuxedo, yeah.
Yes, Halloween Town Dracula.
Yeah.
Halloween City Dracula.
Yeah, Party City Dracula costume, hair slicked back, the whole deal. It's fucking great. And he's telling the guy, listen, your wife isn't even in that grave. She knew that you would try to save her and she wanted to be with us vampires. So we've got her. We never see her.
That was going to be a point.
Her.
Yeah,
we've got her. And then he twirls around and turns into a bunch of bats and disappears. And the guy yells, "Close!" like Ricardo Montalban in Star Trek 2. And I'm going to get you, whatever. And then cue
No, because Klaus as a bat says, "You and what army?"
Oh yeah, Klaus as a bat says, "You and what army?" That's right. That was so hacky. And then cut to the beautiful opening sequence theme tune. What are your thoughts about this opening scene? I loved it.
We had the vampire vision back.
Vampire vision, right?
We had the vampire division back. This actually is part of my Bram Stoker thing because the guy is laying wild rose branches on the grave, which might be a Dracula the novel reference because in Fright Night 2, they do a rose branch or rose thing to fight vampires, and that's apparently straight out of the Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I have never read it.
You're not missing anything. But I thought that was an amazing bit of continuity considering. And also, I was wondering, is Lucard even going to show up this episode? Or were they like, we don't need you anymore, Jordy Johnson. We've got some very special guest star, Geraint Wyn Davies, for when you want to go someplace and cry about your career. But yeah, no, it's
he brings it, man.
Hell of an opening.
He brings it. He brought it. It's been brought.
It has been brought. No more of this Shakespeare quoting, stoic, Klaus, romantic. No more. What's Brad Pitt's name in?
Lestat is the Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember. It's been
no more.
I read it in middle school.
It's the best time to read Anne Rice. You start in grade school with what's her name, V.C. Andrews, and then middle school.
I read that in middle school too.
Yeah, there you go.
I read Stephen King in 10th grade, and then it was all downhill from there.
Nope, I lost my thought. Okay, so the first scene in the episode is the guy showing up at Gustav's. The guy's name that you didn't remember, but I wrote down because it was just such a weird, like Paul Jaeger.
Jaeger, yeah.
So the Jägermeister comes to visit Gustav, who has been dealing with Max being bored by European life.
Yeah.
And so Gustav goes down to the basement and gets him a shortwave radio to repair because Max has a knack for electronics. We've never heard that before.
We've never heard it before. I mean, he listens to a fucking, I don't even know, a Walkman. Yeah. He listens to a fucking Walkman. That's not necessarily being able to fix a shortwave radio, but carry on.
He gets one.
Yeah.
So, but we also have Gustav doing his hard work, which is apparently transcribing his desktop flip calendar to a notebook. And he sees full moon written with 2 underlines on a day.
The 23rd of April.
That's not when St. George's Eve is, though. St. George's Eve is May 5th.
And I think in Europe it's not.
Oh.
St. George's Day is April 23rd this year. Whatever. Okay, so maybe it's okay. So St. George's Eve would be the 22nd.
But we don't know that it's St. George's.
No,
Day.
We don't. And I don't even know what it is really. It's Catholic stuff that
it's probably killed a bunch of fucking Palestinian babies in the Crusades or something, and he's a saint because that tracks. Okay, so yes, Paul Jaeger shows up and says, "You might be able to help me, Uncle Gustav." Cut to upstairs where Max is trying to repair the radio while Chris basically mocks him. Mm-hmm. And then Max is like, "No, I'm going to get the Phillies on here." And then Chris gets excited. And then Sophie, because this episode, they all hang out in the boys' bedroom, except for when Chris and Sophie go off to fuck.
Yeah.
Which happens at least once. But that might be in public. It's okay. They're both minors. They're allowed to do that.
We're not allowed to watch it.
We're not allowed to watch it.
And I'm glad.
Very much so. And I'm sure the producers of Dracula, the series, are very glad they didn't shoot it because the stars of the 1968 Romeo and Juliet are suing Paramount, which is going to be one hell of a weird dismissal. We're suing the Italian producers of this movie that was distributed. They're dead. The studio's owned by 3 different people since then, but
I was 15 and he forced me to get nude on camera.
Just wait till they get to Bertolucci. Okay. So guess what, everybody? Male film directors of the 1960s and 70s were even shittier than male film directors. Michael Bay has a healthy relationship with his teenage girl stars compared to the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Probably. There you go. Congratulations.
If you're into humiliating your wife on camera, watch Fellini. I don't know.
Wow. Bergman never.
Oh yeah, Bergman never did that.
Bergman never exploited female suffering for artistic effect ever.
We are way off track.
Everybody go see Persona though.
Yes, it's very good.
Don't let the Tyler Durden clip in throw you from the rest of the movie. It's just to prepare you. Okay, speaking of art house, Sophie wants to hear the New York Met Opera, and the boys look at her like she is
from another planet.
It looks like she just said, I don't even know what she could have said. She could have been like, you guys aren't going to listen to the Phillies because you're from Toronto.
Yeah.
They couldn't have looked at her like she had more of a third eyeball.
And she sort of sheepishly backs away. And I'm like, no, bitch, stand up for yourself. Listen to the fucking Met if you want to.
Yeah.
God damn. There's a billion football or baseball games a season. They can spare one Saturday afternoon to listen to the fucking opera. Jesus. Sorry.
Well,
folks.
Also, it would imply that Gustav had the technology to do this, but never implemented it before. We're back to Max shouldn't be bored at the house. He should be learning to be a vampire slayer. And he's not, apparently.
No.
Okay. So now we cut downstairs to, and this is a nice little set. I'm very proud. I didn't get the writers' names, but I wonder if they're proud of how they went from the Met Opera to talking about Amelia at the theater.
Yeah.
So Amelia went to the theater.
So Paul comes in and asks for help from
Yes,
Gustav.
We're back downstairs with Gustav and Paul, with Jägermeister and Gustav. I didn't even spell it that way in my notes, but I'm just doing it. just going right ahead for it. It's going to be a thing.
Okay. I'm down.
Okay, so we get this long description, because this episode, nothing happens in it yet, because it's all the reveal for the third act, but it takes 18 minutes to get there. And so we have lots of talking from Paul Yeager and Gustav. But she went to the opera, or she went to the theater. She met Gustav there. Paul Yeager doesn't like going to the opera or the theater because it's, he's an old army man. He doesn't do that kind of thing. He listens to the Phillies. She got sick. She had bite marks. They took her to doctors. Nobody believed her. Nobody believed
him
telling them that she was being attacked by a vampire at the theater. They just gave her pills instead.
Yeah.
And so this is where I have the note. First, I have pills, double exclamation point, double asterisk. Then I have overacting even for Dracula the series.
Yes. He was pretty heavy-handed in his abilities on this, and not in a funny, campy way.
No, he sucks. Yeah, it's too bad. Everybody else does okay, all things considered, but he sucks.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude. Whatever. So then he's like, okay, Gustav, I want you to hunt Claus down and kill him.
Yeah.
Cut to upstairs. They're working on the radio again. So this is the same, this is 3 minutes after we've just had the conversation about the Met. And Sophie's in the back. Chris and Sophie are in the background of the scene. And you can't tell what they're doing at first, but they're actually getting ready to go play tennis. We're fucking a public place.
I didn't catch them getting ready to play tennis.
Seriously?
No, I didn't.
It was amazing because he had the racket and he was just whacking it around, and she's over there like juggling the balls. Like, it's like, okay, Joe, you swing that around, and Mia, you play with the ball.
Mia, you know how to juggle, right? In there.
So Chris says, okay, if you get electrocuted by this radio, can I get your allowance? Then they leave because even though this show makes no sense in how much attention it pays to Max. Anyway, back downstairs, and I think when does Max come down and interrupt them?
It's the second time that he comes back. So
it's the second time we do this scene.
Yeah.
Okay. So now Gustav's just turning him down. He's like, nope, I'm not going to do it. It's no easy task. And this is where Paul Yeager says, I'm a retired Army officer. And I'm like, what Army?
Yeah.
What, the Canadian Mounted Army? Like, I don't know, man. Because you're not, like, where did the first scene take place? Luxembourg is really close to Romania. We find out later, like, very weird stuff. So, I don't know. Is Luxembourg close to Romania? But Gustav says, he's like, I'll pay you, Gustav. And Gustav says, I'm not a hitman, Mr. Yeager. And then Yeager says something passive-aggressive to change his mind and leaves in a huff. Cutting to
our
Lucard
hero.
Industries.
Our hero, ladies and gentlemen.
One hell of a term for him. I'm going to make, I don't know how we're going to do a onesies with a 3-season show, but I feel like all these compliments for Geraint Wyn Davies has earned Emily a watch of God, what was that show called? I forgot already. The Vampire Cop show. Anyway, cut to Lucard Industries. Klaus comes in. Lucard's there, surprising me, because I really thought they were going to trade them off. And he's like, Klaus, you're late. You were out raiding the countryside again, you naughty boy.
And he's got that accent again still, which, one of my notes, it changes. In this scene, it changes.
Yes, it does. It's like he gives it up. He's like, I'm just not going to.
It's not like he gives it up. It's like he turns Romanian. He has a slight Eastern European accent when he's fanged out.
That could just be how much those cheap fangs hurt your teeth.
It could be. I mean, it could very well could be. But he sounded more like a vampire than not. Well,
I mean, do you remember those? Those made your gums bleed. Yeah. I was just going to joke we should do an episode with vampire teeth in, but then I was like, no, we're not. I don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that.
Well, we're not doing that.
We're not doing that. Okay.
You should listen to the episodes with vampire teeth in. Okay.
Bullet dodged. All right.
Now, so they're bickering, and there's a lot of bickering going on again because we've got to pad out the runtime. And then Klaus goes to storm off, and Lucard hits his Matt Lauer button, closing the door.
Yeah. Yep. He does. But before that, he comes in through that door. He transports himself with blue magic outside.
Do we see the blue magic?
We don't see it. No, we don't see it, but we see it later when he. Okay. So he transports himself, comes through the door to stop Klaus from leaving, and they have a fang out, man. A fang out hangout. It's pretty cool.
Lots of hissing, teeth, and shaking.
Hissing, teeth, and shaking. And this is the point where we finally get to hear them speak with teeth in. And Lucard, as I previously said, sounds like he's actually minorly successful at a vague Eastern European accent.
If Dracula the series had gone 10 seasons, Geordie Johnson would have been able to do Eurotrash for the last 2 episodes. Yep.
Yeah. And I don't even know what they freaking talk about. I was just so excited. Oh, they are complaining. You have to settle down. You can't be murdering people. We have a plan. You know, you have to be a little more subtle about this. Well, you used to talk about how you love to go raid the countryside. Suddenly Mr. Perfect turns into little baby pants. And I don't even know how it just gets settled. They defang, and Lucard walks back to his desk, and his voice is quote unquote normal again.
And they talk about how he's going to bribe an environmental minister to kill a pollution bill.
Oh, how did I miss?
I don't know, because that's a bunch of the setup.
How did I miss that? God, I zone the fuck out when I'm watching this.
Nick Knight is the name of the vampire show with Geraint Wyn Davies that you're going to watch for a very special season of Threesies or whatever. Okay, so yeah, and my last note of this scene before Lucard calls Japan to check in on his Tokyo interests is not quoting Shakespeare together now, huh, boys? So we've lost that entirely.
Yeah.
That entire relationship between them is gone. They are
Yeah.
much more like
Big
Klaus
brother.
is
It's like big brother, little brother.
right, and Klaus is like one of Dracula's regular stooges, only with more personality and name in the
more
opening
lines.
titles.
More lines. Yeah.
Okay, so now we cut to Lucard places a call to Japan, and he is waiting to hear from the Japanese guy because Jordy Johnson could not learn any Japanese. He could not learn Ohio gozaimasu. But we cut to Max on the radio, intercepting a phone call that Lucard's on.
Yeah.
Not this phone call, a phone call between Lucard and Klaus about the money drop off. And my first note is they've got to be on cell phones. That's not how technology works, is it? They cut to Lucard on his cell phone, and I'm like, I don't think that was a thing. I don't think cell towers transmit audio waves.
I have no clue, but
I feel like it would have been a big issue if you could just listen on your CB to everybody's cell phone calls.
Yeah.
But doesn't matter. Cut downstairs to Mr. Yeager at the door. Oh God, the maps.
The maps, I forgot. Yes, so he has been tracking Klaus's kills, and I don't know how he knows it's Klaus, except for maybe the type of death, or I don't know. And he rushes to Gustav's house, saying, "I know exactly where he's going to strike next." And he pulls out the map, and it is apparently the kills he's making is creating a star shape, which is somehow relevant to something.
It's a pentangle or penta. It's not a pentagram, but it's a pentastar or something.
It's a star.
It's a star.
It's a fancy word for a star.
It's a fancy. Hold on.
And
okay, so then Max comes out on the staircase and says, "Did it say he was meeting at a bridge?" And the guy's like, "It does say
at the marketplace or something like Market Square or something more specific than bridge. But yes, it is sort of like, okay."
To which Gustav replies, "Get upstairs, Max." And this is where I write down Alan Eastman direction because it's really bad. Now, Paul Yeager reveals he's got a crossbow that he's carrying around, and he's going to kill Klaus and anyone who gets in his way.
Yep.
And he says, "You don't understand, Gustav. If your wife had been taken by one, you would understand." And we get a lingering shot on Gustav, setting up our spoiler for later. This is also where I said, where's the wife?
Yeah.
Shouldn't this episode be about the wife?
Why isn't she in this episode?
Because Paul Yeager came from Canada all the way across the world to kill Klaus, who happens to live there.
When I watched it this morning, I was like, this whole first scene is about this woman, and we never see her. And I think it could have been a much better thing if she had shown up, and the tension was between Mr. and Mrs. Yeager. I know, much better.
Better?
I know.
Or do we want it to be better? We just want Paul Yeager the actor to be worse in more amusing ways. Okay, so Max is like, "Shouldn't we help?" To which Gustav says, "No." And Max is wearing a Phillies shirt, in case you forgot. This is an American boy.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we cut to somewhere where Klaus is approaching in his sunglasses at night, and he meets Gustav. And Gustav says, "Cancel your meeting or you'll be destroyed.
And there'll be nothing I can do to save you."
Yes. And my note is, ooh, Gustav has more secrets. Okay, so now we cut to the back to the house.
The kids, not Chris, Max is trying to prove to Chris that he overheard
Dracula
on the radio. And he turns the radio on, gets a Phillies game. Oh my God, what a coincidence. There happens to be a Phillies game on at the exact same time. And Chris is very excited until that feed is I don't know, intruded upon by Lucard talking on his cell phone.
Sophie's in the background doing her nails, if you didn't notice.
Well, I mean, she's got to be doing something. She's not shopping. She's not trying on her fancy shoes. Hey, I have fancy shoes.
She's giving herself bangs to prank Chris. So here's the phone call conversation between Lucard and Klaus. See if you can see any problems with it. Klaus, there's been a security breach on this line. Klaus says, I thought your cell phones were secure. Lucard says, nothing is secure. We should leave the money with the general. They hang up. The kids go, what about the money? What's the general?
Who's the general?
Who's the general? That's right. We're still at who's the general.
Yeah.
Then we cut downstairs to Mr. Jaeger coming over again to argue with Klaus. The guy comes over 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, we bring up the wife. Okay. So Gustav's like defending the idea that Klaus could have figured out not to show up on his own. And then he's like, you need to just calm down and think about this or something. To which Jaeger replies, my wife doesn't get any time off. Why should I? Okay, maybe you should go deal with your wife who's out there killing a bunch of people back in your hometown, dude. Just saying. You're going to get home. All of your wife's friends are going to be vampires. They're going to fucking kill you. Whatever. Yeah. Good. This guy sucks. And he's like, I'm warning you, Helsing. I'll kill you too. Okay. Cut to a shot of the full moon. Very important, sort of. But then back to the kids where they're arguing about the general, and Sophie figures it out in the best acting in the show, probably. Mia Kirshner going, oh, I realize what's going on.
Yeah.
And so instead of telling the boys, of course,
she just takes them.
Yes.
And get your stuff. Get some
dummies.
Shovels. I'll show you the general.
And somebody makes a comment. Is this about the opera? So is this also where my note is, what's the temperature in Luxembourg? Because no coats. Just Phillies swag. Now we cut to, okay, and they don't find Gustav. They were going to ask him for permission, but they don't find it. So they just don't worry about it. So they run out, and Gustav is headed to the Helsing Crypt, which we have never seen before.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the kids on their bikes like it's Goonies. And they just got to a park. And somebody's like, what are we doing here, Sophie? And Sophie's like, the general isn't a person, silly. It's a place. This is the General George Patton Park.
Yeah. So I caught that the first time I watched and was like, no big deal. And then I was like, why the hell is there a George S. Patton Park in Luxembourg? Well, there's not that I could find, but he died in Luxembourg. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah. I think he's buried in a cemetery there. But you know, I just found it really interesting that somebody had decided that they were going to name a park after George Patton for the show. I mean, I guess it's a reference point for people in the States and in Canada.
All the 9-year-old boys who really dug The Last Days of Patton and were desperate to watch the original.
But I found that really strange. And also George Patton, St. George's Eve. Makes you think.
Don't give away the spoiler, the resurrected Patton.
Was Patton the St. George they're talking about?
And the somewhat but not super unexpected 1990 what's his face appearance George C. Scott.
George C. Scott. I love George C. Scott. Yeah, that was a late one. Oh man, he would have been old man.
Oh, he would have. This was post Mr. President on Fox. Like he might have done that. Like a little bit more money, we would have been seeing some George C. Scott.
He was in Angus in like 94?
94. And that
95.
was
95.
Yeah, but that was his I accept that I'm an old man grandpa
Yeah.
era, not his I can still lead a sitcom.
Yeah.
I don't know if Mr. President's available. We could look into that. I watched that when it came out in 1988.
So he died in 99, so 4 years after Angus. Yeah. Did I ever tell you that Angus is my favorite genre of music, the Angus soundtrack? I'm a 90s kid.
Meaning to watch again. But anyway, so we cut back to the crypt. So they're going to dig up the park looking for buried. We cut back to the crypt where we see, and here's some more continuity for everyone, a plate for Dr. A. Van Helsing, 18 something to 1912, meaning he lived 15 years after the novel, 15 or 14 years after the novel.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought we were going to see some other nameplates. We don't see it. I think the novel's 1897 or 1898.
I was thinking about the continuity where in like the first episode, maybe the second episode, Lucard talks about the Van Helsing family and how, he's the best of the lot. He's better than his father, but not as good as his grandfather. So I was trying to do that math, and that doesn't seem right. That there are 3 generations of Van Helsings in 15 years.
I mean, let's see. It's impossible to do an accurate adaptation of Dracula without making Van Helsing an old pervert who's really bad at science because it was before they discovered blood types, so he didn't know what he was talking about. He was just making shit up. So you can see him, fathering a child right before his death. Anyway, so we cut back to the kids digging. Sophie and Chris digging. Max is thinking, and he just realized it's St. George's Eve.
Because everybody knows when that is.
I'm a vampire expert. That's when Vampire's Loot gives off a blue flame, just like in the first scene of Bram Stoker's Dracula, the novel, and some of the movies. Pin in that. So now we've got that bit of kind of cut back. Wait, who talks about full moons? Is it? Yes.
It's Helsing and Klaus.
Klaus, yes. Cut back to the crypt.
Oh no, it's Sophie. It's Sophie first.
Mentions it?
Because they talk about the blue flame, and then Chris is worried. Oh, he's going to have Dracula's going to have some of his goons out here protecting it. And Sophie says no, because it's a full moon, and that means that all of the vampires have to go back when it's a full moon on St. George's Eve. All of the vampires have to go back to where they were buried to sleep. Is that accurate to the book?
No,
I don't know either.
I don't think so. I think it's nonsense.
Okay.
Okay. But that means when we cut to Helsing, we cut to Gustav, Klaus is coming home to his crypt. And he's got a full cape on again. Halloween City once again. And then, okay, here we go.
Yeah, this is
13
confusing.
years. Gustav has been waiting for this night for 13 years, to which Klaus responds, "You've been doing your homework," which almost implies Gustav wasn't really serious about learning about vampires until 13 years ago. Anyway, "I want you to live again, Klaus." And Klaus is like, "Wrong, I'm alive now. Dracula took me to make me immortal." To which Gustav says, "No, he took you because you are my son."
Shock.
Some lady copulated with Gustav, didn't get an abortion or hide the kid. She instead was like, "I think you would make a good father, Gustav." And this is what ended up happening. He became a vampire. Okay.
I mean, what better way to rebel against your vampire hunter father than becoming a vampire?
Very true.
Yeah.
Okay. So There's a lot of talking. Gustav can't.
Gustav is, while he's talking, surrounding Klaus, pouring out holy water and explaining that this water, this holy water, the circle will trap him. He will not be able to move from this spot.
And we also get some talking about how Gustav will figure out a way to free him, which brings back the Boffin, not the Boffin, whatever that one episode was where they came up with the cure, and, and Klaus was Klaus's first episode that we thought, based on what we saw on IMDb's credits, that it was going to be about curing Klaus.
Yeah. So he could come up with it. He just doesn't have that one last leaf that Dracula has to make the potion.
Just like the X-Men movies, in the first one, when Wolverine sees Sabretooth, they have no memory of each other, except we later find out that they're brothers. Just like in Dracula the series, when there's no acknowledgement that they know each other.
There is in that episode when he's on there.
Oh, right. They say something.
Gustav runs into the room and sees Klaus and goes, oh, you. And that's it. It's just like he's surprised to see this person that he knows. Oh my God, you. Yeah,
I assume they didn't think of what the connection was going to be. I thought it would be like brother.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it would be brother too.
Okay. So then there's a lot of more talking. I can't kill you. Yeah, because you're too much of a coward. And he's like, no, because I'm too much of a father.
So heartwarming.
Yes, I'm too much of a father, Luke. Okay. Cut to Paul Yeager coming in with his crossbow.
Thinking that Gustav has betrayed him. Oh, you're on the side of this murderer. The vampire. And overhears that Gustav is Klaus's father, and Klaus at some point is like, Dracula will save me. Oh God.
Yeah, Dracula will free me, and then I'll kill you, father. Okay, but then Paul Yeager is gonna stop both. Paul Yeager blames Gustav now even more, and he's like, you could have stopped him. Gustav says no. And then Paul Yeager, the Jägermeister, says, I'll stop both of you. Bing! Shoots his crossbow, which is caught right at Gustav's chest by
blue teleport power Lucard. He just, I mean, he's not a bat. He couldn't be, because a bat couldn't get through the sealed entrance unless Yeager left the door open. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
We've never established that the coming in houses uninvited, have we?
No.
Have we established that in this? But yes, he arrives like Deus Ex Machina himself. And goes over, pushes dude Jägermeister down on the ground. It's unclear if he kills him for sure.
Yeah, and I mean it's not, but for now it's like, what are you doing? And if you're going to kill him, why not just drink his blood too? You got to eat.
It's a weird. I mean, it's some bad Alan Eastman direction. Okay, and this whole time Klaus is giggling again, which must have made you so happy.
The maniacal laughter is great.
And then once the bad guys Yeager's resolved, Lucard looks at them and says, okay, go ahead, Helsing, finish up what you started. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
And Klaus is like, what? And he's like, no, go ahead, finish it up. And Klaus is like, no, kill him. Lucard's like, nah, man, I told you need to chill this shit out, but you didn't listen. So now we got to deal with this.
You're not my sidekick anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
no more.
We're kicking you out of the clubhouse.
It's Romeo. They should have quoted Romeo and Juliet at this point. It would have been fucking amazing.
They should have.
Okay. So, couple things now that we're talking about it real quick. We haven't seen Klaus do anything since Lucard told him to knock it off. He actually was more careful.
Yeah. He didn't go to that one rendezvous where he was going to murder somebody.
Yeah. So instead, Lucard's like...
I think Lucard had just had enough.
Okay. So now we get this. Lucard's like, oh, by the way, Gustav, I played a joke on your surrogate family. And I'm like, they're his nephews. Have we forgotten they're his nephews? I guess so. And he's like, it's a truce for one night only, just like last episode that ended in a truce between the vampire slayer and the vampire.
Yeah.
Because it's St. George's Eve and it's a full moon. So Dracula's got to get back to Transylvania, presumably, because there you get, he's got to get to his grave or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would also mean Amelia was back at her grave.
Oh, yeah. So what the hell was Jaeger doing hanging out in the Helsing tomb?
Also, Jaeger might have liked being a vampire. We don't know. Nadia and Laszlo on What We Do in the Shadows. That would be great. Okay, so cut back to the... Oh, wait, no. We've got to have Klaus calling him father and wailing, please, as Gustav locks the door and secures it with a giant gold cross. And I'm like, nobody's going to
get stolen.
That's going to get fucking stolen. Yep. They're going to go in. Klaus is going to be in there and be like, come here a second. He's going to bite the person, even though he's stuck in his little thing. This is a terrible plan, Gustav. Terrible plan. If you want to cure him, stake him. And then when you unstake him later, he'll just resurrect and then you cure him. But in the meantime, he's very, portable as a bag of bones. Cut to the park.
Yes. The kids have been digging and they're having a conversation. No. Gustav just walks up to him. Hey, kids. There's
Have you found any wild geese?
Oh, yes. Have you found any wild geese? That was stupid. Oh, because Lucard sent you on a wild goose chase. Oh, boy.
He knew you were listening when he was talking about how he knew his phone call was being listened to.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, let's go. Max, what's wrong? Well, there's no treasure or blue flames in the park. And to which Gustav says, that's right, I forgot. It's St. George's Eve, even though
the whole thing is predicated upon
for 13 years.
And it has to be St. George's Eve, and it has to be a full moon in order for his whole plan to come through.
Yeah. They don't specify that Klaus got turned 13 years ago. That would have just been the last St. George's Eve and full moon.
Yeah.
So that was the last time Gustav had a chance to know where he'd be. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. They walk out of the park, and as they leave, the blue flames come up right next to where they've been digging, meaning they missed out on 3 things of vampire loot that, for some reason, Lucard didn't want.
Yeah, because he sent them, and there was a 100% chance that they would have found, not a 100% chance, but there is a chance that they could have dug up his treasure. Maybe his treasure was like a goof. It was like clip-on bangs or a plastic dog turd.
Plastic dog turd kind of describes this shit.
I overall thought it was better than last week.
Yes, it was. Well, I like last week's more than you did, but yeah, Jaeger's a bit of a buzzkill in this one, but we do get some good payoffs in this one, and less of the kids in the main plot, which doesn't hurt things.
Yeah, and Mia Kirshner again got a little something to do.
Less of Max in the main plot. I don't know what it would be like to have Chris in the main plot. It's been so long, but yeah.
I'm looking up next week's episode and some of the guest stars. Kim Coates looks familiar.
Hell yeah, Kim Coates! Wow. Poor Kim Coates.
And there's somebody credited as little girl number 2 named Sybil Eastman. I wonder, she's 3rd credited on IMDb. I wonder if that's Alan Eastman's child.
Yep.
Getting a little cameo because he did direct again. I think there's 2 episodes he didn't direct on this. But that is her only credit. So she's not a Nepo baby.
Yes, Kim Coates.
Nepo baby.
So we can talk about whether or not indirect sexism hurt Kim Coates' career when we get to
Okay.
to that.
So the next episode 7, is called What a Pleasant Surprise. That's promising. Thank you all for listening to the podcast this week. We'll see you next week with episode 7 of Dracula, the series. Bye-bye.
Bye.